Monster presents Heard on Thursdays, the iconic radio talk show that made Philippine FM radio top, winner of multiple KBP Golden Dove Awards. HOT, Heard on Thursdays. Your host, Rhea Rams.
Hey, what's up, monsters? Welcome to the dailies. Welcome to Heard on Thursdays. You're tuned into Manila's hottest monster, RX93.1, and you're tuned into the show that made Philippine FM radio top, KBP's best podcast program, Heard on Thursdays on Manila's hottest monster, RX93.1. I'm your host, Rhea Rams, and today's conversation is about something that is often misunderstood. When we hear OCD, many of us think of neatness or order or quirky habits, organization, right? But obsessive compulsive disorder is so much more than that. It's a real mental health condition that affects thoughts, behaviors, and everyday life in ways that go far beyond stereotypes. Here in the Philippines, where mental health conversations are still just beginning to grow, OCD is often overlooked and reduced to a punchline. I'm so OC. Oh my gosh, you're so OC, But behind these labels are real people, real struggles, and the need for real understanding. Our guests today are working to change that. Joining us are Yam Tolentino, the founder of OCD Pilipinas, and Ceej Martinez, the founding member of OCD Pilipinas, which is an organization that provides resources and support for Filipinos living with OCD. Through advocacy, community, and education, they are rewriting the narrative. From stigma and silence to compassion and care. This episode is about breaking myths, listening deeply, and recognizing that mental health isn't just about awareness, but about action. Heard on Thursdays, let's welcome to the show Yam Tolentino and Ceej Martinez of OCD Pilipinas. Hey guys!
Hello everybody,
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Hi, we're happy to be here. We're honored to be on the show. Thank you
Yam,
for the invitation.
back on the airwaves, but this time as a guest.
Yes.
How are you both doing, first of all?
I'm doing great. Surprisingly, just hours before, I was feeling nervous for some reason. It's as if I didn't train here for like 2 years. But now I'm feeling pretty good. How about you, Ceej?
Oh yeah, I'm feeling like a lot better than last night. Because last night I was like overthinking a little bit about it. Because this is my first time here.
Oh,
Like this is the first time I've ever been on a setup like this. So it's like, oh, I don't want to say things that I want to say that you don't want to say. So it's like, yeah, I'm pretty nervous. But right now I'm feeling a lot better.
that's good. Now, can you guys introduce yourselves to the monsters?
Yes, hello. I am Yam Tolentino, the founder of OCD Pilipinas. We started in 2023. We are an organization for resources and support for OCD in the Philippines. So we produce infographics, statements, we organize events, all for raising awareness and bringing treatment closer to people suffering from OCD.
Love that.
All right. So hi, my name is Ceej, and yeah, I'm a founding member of OCD Pilipinas. I remember meeting Yam through a Facebook group, if I remember correctly. Right?
Yes.
It was a Facebook group, and Yam was actually reaching out for members. So, and it was actually very timely because I was looking for a community myself, because I was diagnosed back in the same time we were founded, right? Like 2023.
Yes,
2023. So it was been 2 years, huh?
I was mentioning to Ceej earlier that I remember posting that link. It was like a volunteer sign-up sheet. And I was thinking, yeah, nobody's going to open that link. It's just going to be me. So I was already planning in my head, okay, I'm going to create infographics by myself and maybe upload every 2 weeks or something. But then surprisingly, people started signing up. And Ceej was like the third person to sign up the same day I released that volunteer sign-up sheet. So I'm really thankful that Ceej has been beside me in this journey since 2023.
Yeah, what you guys are doing is amazing because, again, I feel like OCD is one of the most misunderstood mental health
Yes.
conditions.
Definitely.
Not only here in the Philippines, but everywhere. And we all know that OCD Pilipinas is an organization, right, for obsessive compulsive disorder, resources, and support. But beyond its about on socials, what is OCD Pilipinas to the both of you?
For me, it's this community. It's really this community that I can be open about my struggles, because talking about it to other people who might not have that experience, I don't really get the same understanding as people who have been through it. And sometimes when I hear, well, every time I hear the stories of fellow volunteers, I feel like, oh, it's really just not me. And these experiences together, I feel like we can do something about this, you know?
Right. Definitely.
Yeah, and like when I joined OCD Pilipinas, like I thought it was just gonna be like this community, or like it's just gonna be, oh, it's gonna be like a pseudo support group per se.
Hmm.
But yeah, it kind of grew more into this bigger thing of like trying to make sure that OCD is in a conversation here in the Philippines. We try to make sure that everyone's like well represented. Like we try to make sure that OCD is not just like talk about in light of, as you said earlier, like with comedy, it's like like a punchline per se.
Right.
Like you like now we're trying to grow into something bigger. Like we're trying to be more advocacy leaning here. So I'm actually like really surprised at what we're planning to do so far. So pretty much we're kind of like not just becoming more of a community, but rather like change makers, I guess, like for lack of a better term.
Yes.
Definitely. I mean, I think it's really amazing because a lot of people only know about OCD through TV shows or the punchlines, like you mentioned. Like, I'm so OC. I remember that Kim Kardashian, but one of the
Chloe,
Kardashians,
I think it was Chloe.
the ref.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
think.
it was like a video of her being really not like she was so bothered if one thing in her ref was misplaced, and then they told her like, okay, stop, you can't touch that. And then everyone was like, oh my gosh, she's so OC, like she, like, I feel like this is OCD. And it could be, right, it
Yeah.
could be, but people always think it's just that. But apparently there's so much more. But before we get into that, um before we get into the full picture of OCD, can you share us with us your own journey with OCD? Like what made you want to start this advocacy group?
Oh, it will take like a whole day to talk about the whole thing. But for me personally, I first started having OCD in 2016. But
Mhm.
back then, I didn't know it was OCD because I wouldn't even think about it that time, because OCD in my head, it was cleanliness,
Right.
neatness, right? But the symptoms I was experiencing, I thought it was depression. So it went on until like 2017. I had these thoughts, unwanted thoughts that I kept thinking about all day. Like maybe there's just 1 hour that I'm not thinking about it. And to counter, that's the thing about OCD. You have these obsessions and then you feel anxiety because of those obsessions. So you try to counter them with compulsions. So
Mhm.
compulsions can either be physical or mental. For me back then, it was all mental. So what it looks like in a day was, I remember being in a classroom and the teacher was speaking, of course, but I wasn't there because I was thinking about the obsessions, and I kind of made this whole cycle, this kind of guide for myself. I had a sticky pad wherein I wrote arrows and shapes where I put, okay, if I think about this certain thought, this is the next thought. It's very rigid. That's one thing about OCD as well. You have to follow these strict rules,
Right.
otherwise your fear will come true, something like that. So that was I see you, Ria. I hope you monsters are seeing Ria's reaction right now. But yeah, that went on until 2017. And then my OCD kind of came back in 2020, late 2022,
Mhm.
because my I had a new theme. It developed into another theme, and it was related to my thesis. I was working on my
Okay.
thesis back then. That's why it took me 2 years to finish. But
Oh.
that made me seek treatment finally, because I noticed the same patterns I was experiencing in 2016. So it all really started with a video I watched online. The girl was talking about the exact same symptoms that I was experiencing. Turns out it was relationship OCD. That's one of the themes of OCD. There are many different themes, but mine was relationship and religious. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we can talk more about that
Yeah.
later. But the thing about OCD also is it latches onto things that you love. So most likely your theme, if you have OCD, are the things that are most important to you during that time in your life. So I sought treatment, and I really wanted people to talk to, people who I can relate to.
Mhm.
And my doctor led me to this Facebook group, but it wasn't really an official thing, but it
Mhm.
was a support group and people really were helping each other out in that Facebook group. But I was looking for this kind of centralized source of resources and support, which didn't really exist back then.
Mhm.
So that's why I started OCD Pilipinas.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And you also shared your journey earlier about why you decided to join,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So basically, I had a similar, I guess, awakening with Yam because actually, my thesis was probably the reason why I kind of realized I had OCD
Oh my
because
gosh, the thesis.
oh my god, there's like a theme going on here. There should be a thesis OCD
Oh,
specific for this.
actually.
But yeah, going back, I remember creating my or writing our thesis, and we would have like these, what I would dub as like late night talks with my advisor, since that's the only time it's like he's available.
Mhm.
And the thing about like the thesis to me back then was like it was probably the most vital thing because like if I don't finish it, like I'm probably not gonna graduate.
Mhm.
So there's
Right.
like a lot of like for me at least, it felt like there was so much on the line. So I was like very anxious about it. So anytime like I felt like there were like revisions or anything that it and it's not that like I'm not gonna call him out or anything, but like he often makes like these remarks that are very unnecessary. It felt very negative.
Mhm.
So I kind of got anxious whenever like we were not being criticized, which is like it was basically kind of like just harsh remarks. So I kind of found myself like I would get this like there was like it was like during COVID, right? Like it was during the time of COVID. So I got this hand sanitizer. I would just like continuously wash my hands after it because I felt dirty after it. And it was like the only thing that kind of made me feel like safe. It made me feel clean. So that's kind of like I realized that maybe there's something wrong. I didn't want to name it yet because I didn't really know that it could be OCD. Because like usually like when you think about cleanliness, you would think, oh, because like it's like more of a germophobic thing. Like they're just
Mhm.
a germaphobe, right?
Mhm.
But I didn't realize that they wash their hands out of fear. It's not like out of the contamination. Because like, I think those are two different things, right?
Right.
Like being a germaphobe and having OCD is like two different things. So I didn't really mind it. But it wasn't until like after I graduated that the coast is clear. I graduated, yay! And that I felt like it started trickling down onto other things. For instance, I would just like get this random thought of um, like my family, something bad's gonna happen to them, and so I would compulsively look for like a surface and just like knock on it. And it wasn't until like my partner who noticed it. It was like, do you ever notice that I kind of knock on surfaces? And then like sabi niya, oh. Like parang he didn't notice it. I was like, oh, I guess it probably get checked. It turns out it is OCD. So now like for me, like I always don't go for like something a little more Western. I try to look for like a local community
Right.
because I think I already mentioned this like before that the only community I had was like the subreddit for OCD, which like everyone's there, but like I don't really see any Filipinos. So it's like I found this Facebook group, and one thing to another, Yam was calling for members, and then the rest is history.
Yeah. And before we dive deeper, let's warm things up a little bit. Do you guys remember the very first time someone completely misunderstood your OCD? It could be a funny or a frustrating story where you had to say, "Wait, that's not what this is."
That's interesting.
I have one. I think I have more, but there's just one example popping up in my head. I told someone about my diagnosis,
Mhm.
and then they said, "Oh, sometimes I also check the lock on the door several times before whenever I leave the house and whenever we come back to the house." And I'm like, "Well, does it take you several hours in a day? Do you think about it all day? Because it can be
Mhm.
OCD, but I don't I don't think it's the same thing, you know? But at the same time, maybe they're just trying to make me feel less alone.
Maybe yeah.
Maybe some people go through that, but I want to reiterate that it's not OCD. Like,
Yeah. I think from my understanding, you can
mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong, OCD is an intrusive thought that really is debilitating it affects your ability to function on the day to day because of how intrusive it is. And like you two mentioned, you have this compulsion to
Yes.
kind of, I'm guessing it's kind of like a condition. So you
Yes.
have this thought, this is what I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, this is my understanding, okay? So I'm thinking like you have this thought. For example, like you mentioned, something bad's gonna happen to my family.
Yeah.
But if I knock on this table 3 times, it won't
Yes.
happen. And then if that every time that thought comes up, you have to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it doesn't come true.
Sorry, it like zoomed in. I got gulat. But yes, uh that is really I mean, there's just a lot of understanding, I think, that still needs to be done around OCD. And we are going to get into that more later on. But right now, Monsters, you are listening to Heard on Thursdays. I am your host, Priya Rams. And today we are talking about OCD, or the obsessive compulsive disorder, what it really is, what it definitely isn't, with, of course, the founder and founding members of OCD Pilipinas, Yam Tolentino and Ceej Martinez. We will be back in just a little bit, only here on Manila's hottest Monster RX93.1.
The Monster presents Heard on Thursdays, the iconic radio talk show that made Philippine FM radio talk. Winner of multiple KBP Golden Dove Awards. HOT. Heard on Thursdays. Your host, Rhea Rams.
Manila's hottest Monster RX93.1. Welcome back to Heard on Thursdays. It's me, your host, Rhea Rams, and today we are with the founder and founding members of OCD Pilipinas, Yam Tolentino and Ceej Martinez. Now, again, when people hear about OCD, the stereotype is usually, like you mentioned, about being neat or organized. It's about cleanliness, but OCD is so much more complex. It can show up in ways that are invisible. So, for those listening, how would you explain OCD in simple human terms?
I guess to put it simply and still accurately, it's having these thoughts that give you fear. And you try to remove those thoughts from your head by doing another thing
Mhm.
repeatedly. And that whole cycle, it's called the OCD
CD
cycle,
cycle,
I
yeah.
think. That takes a lot of your time in a day. And usually it's connected to the thing you love the most.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one way of putting it. Another thing that I want to mention, that it's mostly um you did mention the OCD cycle, so it's like there's intrusive thought, and then there's like the um the compulsion that's attached towards it. And usually the thing that happens there is that there is some form of like temporary relief from it.
Mhm.
So I think like once that cycle kind of like continues, I think that's kind of like one way of putting it. Another thing that I did kind of like want to touch up more on is just more about like what isn't like, because first of all, OCD isn't like all the time like it's about organizing, because it's like a lot of people get satisfaction from it, but and they claim like, oh, I'm so OC because like I'm so organized, like I just want everything to be clean. But like I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm like my room is not clean, first of all. And like another thing that kind of comes along from it, that is attached from it, is that um I think it comes from like the absurdity of the thoughts or the compulsion. um I think like there was one quote that one of the secretaries that from TikTok, Danny, she quoted Viktor Frankl, and I could be paraphrasing. She quoted that an abnormal reaction to an abnormal event is a normal reaction. So there are things that are like, to me, I feel like are bad. So it's like the pandemic, you're like cleaning and you're like hoarding. That's pretty much a normal reaction.
Mhm.
But to something like, let's say, I guess like one recent example, or like the first time I had like a salary and I wouldn't spend it for like a month because I felt like I was going to be poor if I wasn't like that. So that's what's like one of my themes, like money related OCD.
Mm.
So it felt like that was completely absurd to me. And so that kept pushing me to kind of like realize that maybe there is a problem. So I guess it's just kind of like more of if it feels like, is it normal to think like this? Is it like or is it absurd? Because like I think
Interesting.
that's like for me, that's how I kind of like rationalize things nowadays. Because like now my challenge is like, is this OCD or is it like reasonable doubt?
Mm.
Mm.
One factor to think about is if you enjoy doing it,
Yeah.
it's probably not OCD. Like the usual example of organizing your stuff. If you
Uh-huh.
get satisfaction from it, it's probably not OCD. But if you
Mhm.
feel like, okay, the reds have to be together or else my family will be in danger,
I
and you feel
see.
stressed out, it's probably OCD.
Yeah.
So it's not an enjoyable experience at all. And what I see, a common theme I see with different people with OCD is that we all have this fear of uncertainty.
Oh yeah,
It's
definitely.
kind of, they have a term for it, like uncertainty something, the doubt disease or something
Doubt
really.
disorder.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
the
it is
doubt
something,
disorder, because
doubting disorder.
you want things to turn out a certain way, but because the future is uncertain, you try to
Control it.
control it by doing these compulsions that don't really affect the future.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that they don't make any, like
Yes.
they're not necessarily related to your obsessive thought,
Yes.
but you get some relief
Yes.
Yeah.
temporarily.
And that's the thing, because you get relief, you think that's the solution. Okay, I'm gonna keep doing this compulsion because I don't feel anxiety anymore. And then 1 hour later, okay, I'm having the obsessions again. I'm gonna do the compulsion, and it's gonna be endless because you think that the compulsions are the solution when in fact it's feeding off of the cycle and it gives you more anxiety.
Yeah.
So what then is the best way to treat OCD?
So that's the question.
Yeah.
The solution, well, the best kind of treatment they say for OCD is ERP. It's exposure and response prevention therapy. So what you do there is you're exposed to your fears and then you're not going to respond.
Okay,
Yeah, because if you respond, it's going to be a cycle again. It's
right.
obsession and compulsion. But if you just face the obsession without doing any compulsions, it's gonna it's gonna teach your brain that, okay, the bad thing didn't happen. You don't have to respond the next time. It kind of teaches you that.
I see a lot about exposure therapy actually.
Mm.
Like I see people like the rejection therapy that people do on TikTok.
Mm.
They go up to random people because they're afraid to do it, and then they get rejected, and then they just get used to it. Like nothing bad happens. Anyway, I don't think
That's kind of similar in a
Similar.
way that you get used to something you're uncomfortable with. That's one feature of OCD as well. We don't feel comfortable
Mhm.
about those thoughts.
Right.
So we
Yeah.
try to feel comfortable by doing the
The
compulsions.
compulsion.
But it gets worse as
Right.
you do the compulsions. So you have to learn to be uncomfortable, to be okay being uncomfortable.
I love that. I love that. Okay. Now my question is, are there medication
Yes.
for
Yeah.
OCD?
There's a lot. I personally took medication. It's what helped me really
Mm,
because the first time I had OCD, I didn't know it was OCD.
right.
So I kind of healed from it naturally. I did kind of some research about it, and what happened was like what's ACT? The acceptance
Acceptance.
and something therapy.
I
It kind
forgot the
of
name.
came naturally to me back then because I didn't know it was OCD.
Mhm.
But when I learned it was OCD the second time, I took sertraline. It's
Okay.
a form of serotonin. It ups your
SSRI
serotonin. Yeah,
and
it ups your
SSRI.
serotonin, which is a lack in OCD. You lack that in
I
OCD.
see.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I know there are many different types of OCD and they don't often get talked about. So there's contamination OCD, the fear of germs, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
There's also checking OCD, which is constantly needing reassurance. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And then there's also things like relationship OCD, harm OCD,
Yes.
and even intrusive thoughts that just don't fit the stereotypes at all. I know
Yeah.
we can't really talk about each and every one of them in depth because we're going to take forever and I'm sure it's very complex, but let's talk about some of the most common ones that you guys see that people may not be aware of. So
Mm.
I feel like people are a little bit more familiar with the contamination OCD. That's usually what they see, right? Like the
Hand washing.
Mm.
repetitive hand washing. um what else would you say are common here in the Philippines?
I'm not sure about common, but I want to talk more about the stories we personally have
Oh
or
yeah.
have heard
Mm.
Mhm.
because we do already hear a lot about contamination OCD, and I feel like the more we talk about the less known themes, more
Mhm.
people would feel that they're not alone, you know.
Right.
Mm.
As for me, I've had like three different themes throughout my life, but two of them are consistent: relationship and religious OCD, because those two things are some of the most important things for me. So during that first OCD spike I've had in 2016, one of the compulsions I did was related to social media. I would check user, this one user, every day, and it's not just once, and it's compulsive. I feel like I really have to go and check this page daily, and that's kind of unusual, I think, because it's not like washing your hands or tapping, although I do the tapping as well.
Mhm.
It's different, and it's what I heard on the video I mentioned a while ago, that
Mhm.
another girl experienced that as well. She stalked that page daily like it's a chore, and it felt like a chore to me. And until now, 2025, I still do it, but not for the same reasons anymore. I still check the page daily. And I had another kind of OCD is really complex
Right.
because it gives you thoughts that you really don't want to have.
Mhm.
And during that time, same time 2016, because I was doing that stalking, I felt like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore because um it's really stressful. I don't want to do that all the time. So I tried to counter that through my religious beliefs, which is it's kind of complex. I'm sorry. I hope you understand this, but I tried to apply certain Bible verses to it so that I could stop. So it
Okay.
became kind of a compulsion that, okay, in order for me to stop stalking this page, I have to think about certain Bible verses. And so it became this tiring thing of like, oh no, you're not faithful enough because you're feeling anxious opening this Instagram page. It's a whole thing. It's a whole
Right.
cycle. I have like a list of 100 intrusive thoughts related to those things. So yeah, I think that's one thing. Yeah, that's an obsession and compulsion that I don't really hear other people have.
Right. Right.
It's kind of unusual, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, actually I have like something a lot more similar to Yam. But I think like I want to talk about the aspects of when OCD manifests for a bit, just to kind of like contextualize, because usually OCD also comes from childhood. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but like OCD also comes from as early as childhood. And I didn't realize this until like we were discussing this earlier. That when I was like around 10 or 11, I had this like this was the longest probably that I've had an intrusive thought before, and I didn't realize it was OCD. That I was gonna die at the age of 13.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just weird, right?
Yeah.
And so it was like a weird thing to happen because it's like obviously like I grew up in a religious family, and like everything that we have to do is like if there's something wrong you have to pray. So what I did was like, oh, there's this thought of like I'm not gonna die, so like if I pray to Jesus, or if I pray to just like uh that I will not die, then I'll not die. So that's what I kept doing. Like secretly, I would just like I would like do the sign of cross, like please, I don't want to die at the age of 13. And so like I kept doing that for like 2 years, and I think they call it
Yes.
scrupulosity, OCD. Yeah,
Religious OCD or scrupulosity.
yeah. So pretty much like that's kind of like one of those things that I felt like not talked about that much because like
Mhm.
usually it's often like intrusive thoughts or like just generally washing of hands or like organizing.
Right. So to clarify, what was the term that you said for religious OCD?
Scrupulosity.
Scrupulosity.
You can say religious OCD. It's the
So
same.
religious OCD is just anything that has to do, like if your compulsion, for example, is praying.
It can be either the obsession or compulsion.
I
Because
see.
for me, it was first the compulsion, then it kind of transformed into an own theme. Because at first, I was just responding to my thoughts about the relationship OCD. Okay, I'm
With-
gonna pray so I don't have
Mhm.
those thoughts. And then suddenly I had these thoughts like, okay, because you keep feeling anxious still, even after praying, that means you are not a
I
religious
see.
person, you're a bad
Okay.
person. So it became it
I-
became the obsession.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
get it. I get it. So it really is complex. Like it's OCD, but it's not always just one theme
Yes.
forever.
Yes.
It can transform, it can change.
Yeah,
Especially-
actually, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, like I just really wanted to like manifest here that like and I don't that no one takes it for granted, like when you think that OCD kind of like becomes quiet for like a little while, um you think it is, but it does for a while, and then like it doesn't, because like apparently like when people grow older, like OCD gets a little bit harder, and like you really do explore like a lot of things. So sorry for like interrupting earlier, but it's just more of like really like right now there's like a lot of things that do evolve over
Yeah.
time.
I've noticed that with myself as well. Whenever there's a big important thing in my life, it develops into OCD. So
Yeah.
at first, I was new to my relationship, and then like a year later, I developed relationship OCD.
Okay.
And I grew up, well, I've always just studied in Catholic school, so I'm very religious growing up. So that's also a theme. And then when I started doing my thesis, which was related to sexual orientation, it became a theme as well. So whenever there's this whole big thing and I know it's really important in my life, it
Mhm.
turns to be OCD.
Okay, now a lot of people hear these themes of OCD, right? Like relationship OCD, religious OCD. What does that even mean? I mean, you did explain it a bit, but can you also explain how these manifest? You did mention that from it could be from childhood also, and it's usually what's important to that person. But why is it important to not confuse intrusive thoughts with someone's actual character or intentions?
Oh,
Mm.
that's really a huge thing about OCD as well, because OCD counters your values.
Mm,
You feel like it convinces you that you're this bad person, or you're this person that's opposite of who you are.
Yeah.
right.
So whatever your values are, turn that around, and that's OCD.
Mm.
So if I'm someone who values hygiene so much, my OCD will make me think that you're the dirtiest person in the world. So you have to wash your hands certain number of times in a day. That's also another kind of OCD, magical thinking. Some of us have magic numbers. For example, my magic number was 3 before, then it became 7 and became 4. So you have to do things a certain number of times. Yes,
yeah.
based on that magic number. Some of us have that.
I see.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, how does OCD affect your day to day life for someone living with it?
Hmm. I guess it like takes like precious free time for me because like right now I guess I can admit that like I do have relationship OCD. I think I've gone into points where I'm like I have like these intrusive thoughts that oh I think we should break up like, but I'm not saying that I will, but I would like for like for like a long time like it would take me like a long time to just like ruminate on it. I think that's one of the like a huge compulsion for it is like when you keep entertaining the thought, some one compulsion is just like to keep thinking about it and like just entertaining that thought, and that's what they call rumination. And so usually it would take me
Mm.
like 30 minutes to like an hour of my precious time, especially when like I'm working from home.
Just thinking about it.
Yeah, just thinking about it.
And you mentioned that even just thinking the thought, like allowing yourself
Yes.
to think that thought is already a compulsion. That's so interesting to me.
Yeah, because it's like you try to keep, because like rumination it kind of like, or at least for me, it like comes from like trying to validate it from within. So sometimes it comes with like googling things, or like sometimes it's just like mentally checking yourself. So, like I think there's like a theme for it, like pure O, right?
Yes.
Like pure, there's like this theme called pure O, where specifically it's like there's no physical compulsions, but there are mental
Mm.
ones. I
All in
think,
your head.
yeah, like I think there was an artist, Luke Combs, that like talked about this, and I've never felt like really validated because like I would have like periods where I'm just like the thought is here and like I have to entertain it in a way that I want to make sure that it's gone. So I keep googling stuff like how, like what's like the, what, like should I break up with this person? Why should I break up? Why shouldn't I break up? And it's like I would like play scenarios of like what would happen if I do break up, and it keeps making me anxious for like
Mm.
an hour a day, and it's like it's a little bit exhausting sometimes.
So you
actually.
so it's it because people have intrusive thoughts, right? But it's not debilitating. It's just like a thought that keeps popping up in their head, but
Mm,
it's not necessarily like affecting their day to day. That isn't OC. It can be.
it can be.
I mean, it's best to get checked, right, by a professional.
Yes.
But it's concerning when it becomes this thought that you just can't get rid of, and it causes you anxiety, like you mentioned.
Yes. And
Yes.
if it affects your social life and your job as well, and maybe schooling, because that's what happened with me in my thesis.
Mhm.
When I started sitting, it's always the thesis.
It's always the
When I
thesis.
started sitting down and actually reading the stuff, I get triggered because my theme is related to my topic. And so I sit there, think, and not write anymore. And then when I try to get back to it, it's so distressing. I just cry sometimes because I can't deal with the thesis while
Right.
having those thoughts.
Right.
Yeah. So it really
Ah,
affected my studies
yeah.
for 2 years.
I can see, like, I mean, day to day, it really it's I feel like it's such a difficult thing to explain because people can easily say, okay, just stop thinking about it,
Oh my god.
but
Oh my
it's
god,
not,
yes.
like, I'm sure it's not easy.
It's not easy.
It's not like, okay, yeah, thought's gone. It's not like that. Like, I'm sure anybody going through it would wish that it could be removed in the snap of a finger,
It's
right?
actually like really interesting because like I read this online, like the way that they kind of like stop their compulsion is to just like let's put a pin on it. Like that's what I kept
Mhm.
doing it. Like back then when I started like running, and then like usually like I don't know if you experience this, like when you're extremely tired and that's like when all of the intrusive thoughts come up. Like do you experience that? Like when you're tired and like there's like a lot of intrusive thoughts.
Oh, I think, well, not really.
Okay,
They
maybe it's
come up
just me.
in different times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe it's
Mhm.
just me because like often like when I'm cooling down when I'm running, that's when like my mind is like I'm very tired, so like I don't have like a filter for like the intrusive thoughts. And so like the way that I kept practicing to just kind of like not have any compulsions with it was like, all right, let's put a pin on it, and then let's just put a pin on it and just like not entertain it for now.
Right.
And it's like there's no compulsions in it, and there's like no anxiety when I was like doing it. And so I felt like it's not easy to do it because like there were times that I have to like mentally say stop to the intrusive thoughts
Mhm.
that I had while I was like after running. But it was kind of like a good way to just kind of like have some sort of like a prevention from that.
Mhm.
It was kind of like one way of like stopping, and I'm pretty sure everyone who's like listening could probably practice this.
Yeah.
That like maybe just like just put a pin on it, like visually pin it like it's a notepad, and then just like put it in like a cork board, or maybe like put it like a file folder, maybe.
Yeah. Put it in a little corner in your head
Yeah,
first.
exactly.
Don't address it. Don't entertain it.
Exactly. That's kind of like what I was like thinking. Like actually in my mind there's like this folder that's just like sitting in the back of the room.
Yeah.
And it actually does help because like I don't have any compulsions and I don't feel anxiety from it either.
Yeah.
So it actually kind of like, helps me with like intrusive thoughts, because like now like that was like the period where I was like I didn't feel like any anxiety or like any pressure to kind of feed into the cycle.
Right. Yeah. I feel like that's so important. Just even like the tiniest step you can take to fight it.
Yeah.
I have another tip as well. I read this online. Answer your OCD with okay and. So when it's so helpful. It's so helpful because whenever the thought comes in, I say I don't respond with a compulsion like I always have. I say okay and then I'm gonna think more fears. It's gonna
Yeah,
convince me
yeah,
that oh
yeah.
no, you need to be scared. You need to be scared. And I'm gonna
Right,
say
right.
okay and until it kind of gets tired. Like
Yeah.
okay, I can't think of any more fears, so I'm just gonna leave you alone. It
Okay.
feels like that. You can answer it with okay and.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's cool. Now, I think it's really powerful to name these because sometimes people might be experiencing OCD and not realize it, right?
Yeah.
And maybe they also feel ashamed because their symptoms don't look like the clean freak stereotypes. Is this something that you guys see a lot in your community?
Actually, yeah. I think I remember like when we were it was like in the OCD conference. Like we went to this OCD conference and it was talking about like OCD in the rural areas in the Americas. And then like it mirrored so much with how much we experience OCD here in the Philippines, because people were just not like getting checked for OCD just because of like the stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I think that they were like mostly riddled with the idea that it's mostly organized, it's mostly cleaning. And so like people don't really realize that it's much more nuanced than just like organizing and getting things right.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly also just intrusive thoughts, and that kind of like hinders them, because like anything that they see about OCD has just been, oh, it's just like a neat freak, oh, he's a germaphobe. But
Mm-hmm.
it's more than that. It's someone who debilitates from like a lot of these very unwanted
Yeah.
thoughts. Like it's like some that are very much more gruesome than others, but other than that, people just don't really get checked that much because of stereotypes
Yeah.
alone.
But I think it's important to know that when it comes to these, it's not just like you said, it's not just intrusive thoughts. It really genuinely affects your ability to function properly on the
Yes.
day to day.
Yes.
Now, of course, support really does matter. So, how does OCD Pilipinas help with that? What kind of resources or community have you built for the people who are struggling, especially those who may not have access to professional care right away? And before you answer that question, I do want to share. Somebody here commented, Carol Navarro says, Hi, Ceej and Yam, currently having a major ROCD flare up nowadays. Any therapists you could recommend? Hard to find ERP specialists here. Also looking for a community to connect with since it feels lonely.
Mm.
Thank you for that.
Actually,
We're actually forming this directory of resources for OCD, so that would contain like psychiatrists, psychologists, so that they could have options who they could contact. But we can't release it yet because there are not a lot of
not a
OCD.
lot.
Actually, there isn't any OCD specialist, like
Yeah.
certified specialist in the Philippines, but there are a lot of psychiatrists who have experience treating people with OCD, like us, like our
Mhm.
psychiatrists. So we can refer you to those doctors. We can release that directory soon. You can
Yeah.
also reach out to our Facebook page
Mhm.
so we can PM you on that. And yeah,
Yeah, pretty much. Like you can also reach out to OCD Pilipinas if you want to like volunteer or just be part of the community, because I think we're a growing community of people who are advocates
Mhm.
and self advocates for OCD. So yeah, you can probably just like send a message our way.
So OCD Pilipinas, are you guys partnered with any mental health specialists or mental health like psychiatrists, psychologists who are able to, I don't know, are just partnered with, like, are you partnered with any of them? And then like I mentioned earlier, what are some of the resources or the community that you've built for the people through this organization?
so far we aren't officially partnered with any psychiatrist,
Mm.
but when we have our events, like our OC Dare to Share event last year, it's become this annual thing. It's an initiative started by the International OCD Foundation, and we use their resources so that they upload these materials that we can use so we can
Nice.
organize our own OC Dare to Share. And last year, we have In Touch community services
Yes.
in our event. So you can come up to them. In that way, we kind of get the treatment closer to the people who suffer from OCD. So in that way, we are partnering with them, but not officially, though that is a good opportunity for the future. And as of now, we provide support by releasing infographics, statements, organize events like OC Dare to Share. We're forming this directory. And we have this internal kumustahan,
Yeah.
which we hope to be more we hope to have like a public version of it so that more people could participate and receive support.
Awesome. Now, Candice Urquiola
Hi, Candice.
Oh my God,
says
Candice.
NOCD is a good resource.
Yes.
Yes.
And then JP Valdez is asking, because majority can't afford some treatment for OCD, what are some simple ways to treat this kind of disorder without anything to cost? Kung meron, konti lang.
Oh, actually, actually, I have an OCD flare up like recently, and I did go to my therapist, and one of the things that she did mention me was practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness is kind of like this exercise of kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like more of like entertaining the thought, but like letting it go. So pretty much like what she told me was like, to meditate and picture my thoughts as leaves falling off a tree and then going into a stream. And it's kind of like a way to just kind of like entertain the thought, but not like give into it too much. So pretty much like, for instance, I would like think of a thought, like let's say, I'm kind of hungry. I would meditate on that, and I would picture it like going away to the stream and just like not existing on my line of sight anymore.
Yeah, like not giving it any power.
Yeah, so it actually does calm me down like from time to time. But that's like one way of kind of like exposing yourself to like the intrusive thought, but also like preventing some response from it,
Mhm.
while also keeping yourself calm. So I think that's one way that I kind of like that people can practice.
Mhm. So yeah, I do think, of course, joining the community or the organization would be a really helpful thing for people who are experiencing this, because of how many people are going to be able to share their experiences, and what works for them might work for you too. So we're going to be talking more about that in just a little bit. But right now, Monsters, you are listening to Heard on Thursdays. I'm your host, Rhea Rams, and today we're talking about OCD, the obsessive compulsive disorder, what it is, what it isn't. And of course, we're talking about it with the founder and founding member of OCD Pilipinas, Yam Tolentino and Ceej Martinez. We'll be back in just a little bit, only here on Manila's hottest, Monster RX93.1.
The Monster presents Heard on Thursdays, the iconic radio talk show that made Philippine FM radio talk. Winner of multiple KBP Golden Dove Awards. HOT. Heard on Thursdays. Your host, Rhea Rams.
Manila Manila's hottest monster, RX93.1. Welcome back to Heard on Thursdays. I'm your host, Ria Rams, and today we are with the founder and founding member of OCD Pilipinas, Yam Tolentino, and Ceej Martinez. Now, here in the Philippines, conversations about mental health are still growing. I mean, they've grown, but there's also still a lot more growing to do. Now, in your experience, what would you say is the biggest misconceptions about OCD here in the Filipino culture?
Mm, the biggest misconception.
I think it's the same globally, but it's really about organization.
Yeah.
Because until now, even after I founded OCD Pilipinas and have become more vocal about it,
Mm-hmm.
there are times when I just want to organize stuff. But then there's this one instance that someone said, "Oh no, OC ka na naman." And I'm like, we still really have a lot to do because it really isn't just about organization.
Mm.
We have to emphasize that it's about unwanted thoughts
Mm-hmm.
and responses to those unwanted thoughts that you also don't want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes people, like you said, like literally you just said, some people still kind of use it as a joke.
Yes.
Minsan even a compliment. Like,
Mm.
"Uy, you're so OC. I love it. You're so neat." But this language obviously affects the people who are really living with a disorder. So how does that affect the people who live with OCD?
It really minimizes and
Yeah.
downplays the experience because when you start talking about I have OCD, people would think it's not that serious. You're not
Mhm.
really struggling. You just want things to be in order.
Mhm.
But really it's many different things. I've heard so many stories in the past 2 years about people's different OCD themes and it's nothing like organizing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it becomes this thing that isn't really serious
Yeah.
whenever people use OC as a compliment or an adjective.
I think another thing that I want to add to that is when I think it was like pretty much last year when intrusive thoughts kind of became like this huge term.
We released
Right.
an infographic about
Yeah,
that.
we released an infographic. That was our first infographic, I believe. That people were kind of like using this term. Oh, my intrusive thoughts are winning. It kind of
Mhm.
got annoying because like I think people kind of like confuse it with impulsive thoughts because I think to them it just doesn't really ring that much. But
Mm.
like a lot of people don't really get that intrusive thoughts is not just like I think I'm gonna dye my hair green. That's
Yeah,
not an
that's
intrusive
the
thought.
usual.
That's
Yeah.
impulsiveness.
Yeah,
That's-
you're right. You're right. Like
Yeah.
impulsive is the better term
Yeah, because
for
it's
what
like
people have been describing online.
Because,
Because if
like,
it's
if you-
intrusive,
yeah.
you don't want to hear about my intrusive thoughts. It's
Exactly.
kind of like that.
Yeah.
You think there's like the meme there is like me when I actually let my intrusive thoughts win and it's them going to jail.
Yeah,
'Cause it's
yeah.
like
Because those are unwanted thoughts.
Yeah,
We
those
don't
are
want to
unwanted
have those
thoughts.
thoughts. And actually, it's hard to talk about them because
Mhm.
they're opposite my values.
Right.
yeah.
Now, I imagine, of course, advocacy isn't just about connecting people, it's also about
Someone who you could like talk to like without judgment and someone who actually knows like when your patterns are showing up, like when your OCD flares up, like you need someone to like confide with. If not, like you can't like because self-care only goes so far.
right.
Like but how far like can self-care like take care of you? So like I really do think that like having like a confidant or like a support system rather would be like a very great way of putting it. So it's like it's not just like more about researching, but also someone who just like understands you or like a
Someone
group of
who's
people.
willing to be there.
Yeah, it's like someone who's
Yes.
like willing to be there because like it's like in the same way like with other mental like disorders or illnesses or conditions. It's just more of like someone who could just like listen to you in like
Yes.
in your most dire time.
Right.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about treatment and care. Now, you did mention that there isn't really a specialist for OCD here in the Philippines yet, but what is the reality of access to care here in the Philippines? Therapy and medication are often expensive and hard to find.
Yeah.
So what are feasible steps that maybe governments or schools or communities could take to improve mental health care for people with OCD?
That's really a goal for us to
Yes.
have OCD specialized treatment here in the Philippines. So
Mhm.
whenever we release our statements, there's always this call for more support for mental health in the Philippines, because health in general, not even just mental health, like
Mhm.
physical health, it's not really, it's still expensive,
Mhm.
much more mental health and much more OCD, a very specialized treatment.
Right.
So there really is a long way to go, and
Mhm.
we really need to work together so that we can bring that treatment here in the Philippines and to make it affordable, because it's really expensive. It's
Yeah.
really
Yes.
expensive.
Yes, like in other countries, care for health, even mental health, comes free. Of course, it's being paid for by the people, and that's something that we hopefully can have, especially since the Filipino people are also paying their taxes. So
Yeah.
hopefully, it goes to the right places, like mental health, for example, which I feel is so needed in, especially in our country. Now, Yam, Siege, I know this must be deeply personal work for you guys. Now, how do you guys take care of yourselves while leading this kind of advocacy? Especially since, it's something that you experience yourself too. Do you have your own practices or rituals that help you balance the heaviness of the work with your own healing?
Mhm.
I am slowly learning to realize that I should rely on other people,
Right.
because I usually don't want to burden other
Mm.
people. I get
Mm-hmm.
shy sometimes to kind of tap Siege, hey Siege, help me on this, because I don't want to burden other people. But
Yeah.
that's not how it's gonna work. A
Mhm.
community should consist of people actively relying and trusting one another. And that's what I'm learning, to be more in community with OCD
Right.
Pilipinas.
Yeah. And I also think that like, those komustahans did really do work. And so like for me, like whenever like I try to take care of myself, mostly I try to kind of just like check myself sometimes to kind of just like see my disposition to see if I'm like exhausted, and
Mm-hmm.
I just try to take like mental health days. Like I think that's like one way of like taking care of yourself, just like to allow your body to rest, because it's like there's only so much you can do.
Mm-hmm.
There's only so much like your one hand can do. Like I think that's like one of the things that you have to realize is that you need to take a break every now and then, because like you've come so far, but like but that doesn't mean that you have to keep going all the time. You can just like sit back and just relax for a bit.
That's
Right.
also the importance of having a community. Like,
Right.
if I can't right now, other people can do it for me now. And if
Yeah.
you're tired, I can do it for you next
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I love that. And of course, that is so important, especially since each and every one of you are going through your own journeys of healing as well. And to have people who fully understand what it's like. And also, not only like it's not only a community of people who are going through it too, but you're also trying to spread that awareness to people who don't really know what it's like, who've never experienced it, who are lucky enough to have never experienced it. But understanding, I think, is so key to making this more for us to be able to take steps to healing and to growing. Now, we are going to be talking a little bit more about this, but you are listening to Heard on Thursdays Monsters. I'm your host, Ria Rams, and today we are talking about obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD, what it really is, what it definitely isn't. Of course, with the founder and founding member of OCD Pilipinas, Yam Tolentino and Ceej Martinez. We'll be back in just a little bit, only here on Manila's hottest Monster, RX 93.1.
Monster presents Heard on Thursdays, the iconic radio talk show that made Philippine FM radio talk. Winner of multiple KBP Golden Dove Awards. HOT. Heard on Thursdays.
Your host, Rhea Rams.
As hot as Monster RX93.1. Welcome back to Heard on Thursdays. I'm your host, Rhea Rams, and today we are with the founder and the founding member of OCD Pilipinas, Yam Tolentino and Ceej Martinez. Now, when you think about the future of OCD awareness here in the Philippines, what gives you hope? What have you seen, like moments of change, maybe in the community or in media or even in personal stories that remind you that this work is making a difference?
For me, what I really envision, it's kind of a big picture, but I want to see this country that's inclusive and has equal accessible treatment for all kinds of disabilities, not just OCD. Because if we have that country, then that means all of people suffering from OCD have access to treatment here in the Philippines. And I have hope because of our members. Like whenever I see members stepping up to do certain tasks, I feel my heart is happy to see that people are willing to do things to make OCD treatment accessible here in the Philippines.
Yeah. And yeah, pretty much like we try to aim to get the to have like a country that's for everybody and everybody.
Yeah, we use
Yeah.
that as
Yeah.
a hashtag.
Yeah, so
Everybody and every space body.
yeah, so pretty much like what gives me hope is just like whenever like we have our little kamustahans and we would have like see like, oh, we have small wins today, like we got promoted, someone graduated. You kind
Aw.
of see like there are people that are just like in the midst of all these struggles, there's just like success stories per se.
Yeah. Whenever we have kamustahans and I'm like, when I ask about their OCD, hey, how are you about this one? Because our last kamustahan, you said you were struggling about this. And they say, oh, I took my meds na and I'm getting better. Nakapag-manage na better. So that warms my heart that
Yeah.
everyone's healing together and we get to share that with one another.
Yeah. And I think, Monsters, this is such an important conversation because the first step to be able to heal is to first be aware. And like we mentioned earlier, OCD, sometimes people don't even realize that they have it because they think it's just, especially it became a trend, intrusive thoughts. But if it becomes debilitating, maybe it's time to address it. It's nothing to be ashamed about, and there's a whole community who's willing to back you and be there for you, such as OCD Pilipinas. Now, if you could speak directly to someone who's listening right now who might suspect that they have OCD, but they feel afraid or ashamed or alone, what is the first thing that you would want them to hear?
I wanted to say something so cliche, like it will get better, but it really does.
It really does.
Because if I am talking to my 16-year-old self right now, it does get better. Look at you now. Because if you're there during the peak of your OCD, it feels like that's the end. It doesn't feel like there's a solution to it because your brain is against itself. So there is a solution for it and there is treatment and it is possible to get better. I promise.
Yeah, and sometimes like I say this to myself like life does get harder, but at the same time it just gets a lot easier as you go along from it, because like you kind of see like sometimes you struggle in it and then like you kind of survive,
Right.
and like people don't really realize that like at some point it does become like a bit more cyclical, but to the point that it's like it's not that hard anymore.
Because you get tools from it as
Yeah,
well.
you get tools from it. Like you have like things that you learn from other people, you learn from your therapist, you learn online, like you learn a lot of things you learn how to survive like as you grow older. So it's like it gets tougher, life gets tougher, but dealing with it makes it gets easier. I just wanted to say. So yeah, to anyone who's like struggling, it does get easier, it does get better.
Yeah, just it's really take that first step, no? Parang
Yes.
name it. Don't be scared. If you think you have it, name it. And then you get to work on it from there. Now, to those who want to help, whether they're allies or friends or just people who care, what is one small step that they can take today to make the Philippines a more supportive place for people with OCD?
For me, the best thing you can do is to join organizations
Yes.
that really fight for these advocacies.
Yeah.
Whether it might not be OCD Pilipinas for you, or it might be OCD Pilipinas for you, but you really can't do it alone. We're not gonna get to that inclusive world and country with just you alone. You
Mhm.
have to work with other people, other like-minded people to get to that place.
Mhm.
So join organizations that have the same advocacies as you, especially about mental health and inclusivity.
Yeah, and also really push forward for policies and programs that just really support, neurodivergent peoples in general.
Mm.
You have to listen to their calls, like if how they want to be addressed, what policies do they need? Do they need like more educational institutions or safe spaces in public spaces or private spaces rather. You also have to learn how to listen as well. It's not just like you get to join an organization and you think the job's done. No, you have to do the work. You have to
Mhm.
listen. You have to be compassionate about it either. So you just have to like really be immersed with the community that you want to join and help on. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I also have one.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not in the community, but
Yes.
I think one small step that's really easy that people can take is to take out, oh my gosh, you're so OC, out of your
Yeah.
language.
Actually,
Yeah.
Like, just because I used to say it a lot, and then I realized that OCD was not that. So I stopped using it. And it takes time. It takes time to get used to uh, removing it from your vocabulary. But I do feel like by making sure you're not minimizing what OCD is to just, oh my gosh, you're so OC, can already help destigmatize and change the way that people see and understand the disorder. Now, if there's one thing that you guys would want every Filipino to know about OCD, whether they're living with it, they love someone who has it, or just want to understand better, what would that message be?
Hmm. That's a really loaded question. Hmm.
I guess this goes for all the other disorders as well, any other
Mhm.
disorder. Just try to listen and understand where that person is coming from.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think that's it for me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Because
just
a lot of the problems that I encounter can come from that,
mm,
not
Right.
having people understand what I'm actually going through.
yeah.
Mhm.
So even just a listening ear who is really willing to understand, that's a huge thing already for someone who's struggling.
Okay.
Because having OCD is, what do you call that word? You feel like you're alone, really.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now, of course, you are working for OCD Pilipinas, and we really would like for your work to be more recognized. So, where can people follow your work, support OCD Pilipinas, and of course, learn more?
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at OCD Pilipinas. So that's the same username for all platforms.
Okay, awesome. Now, Yam, Ceej, thank you guys so much for joining us today. This conversation has really been so eye opening. And I feel like we totally understand OCD even just a little bit better now. We at least know that it's not just organization. It's not just cleanliness. It's so much more than that. And I feel like this conversation was so, so needed, especially at a time when mental health is finally being talked about a little bit more here in the Philippines. Once again, Monsters, this has been Heard on Thursdays with me, Rhea Rams. Today, we talked about the realities of obsessive compulsive disorder beyond the stereotypes with, of course, the founder of OCD Pilipinas, Yam Tolentino, and the founding member, Ceej Martinez. Catch us again next week, same time, same place, only here on Manila's hottest Monster RX 93.1.